Chapter 4. The Chinese Civilization. A quick glance. Chinese civilization, location and extent. Geographical advantages of ancient China. Society and town planning. Occupation and religion. Script and architecture. Developments in science and technology. Chinese civilization was a Bronze Age civilization that developed and flourished along the banks of river Huanghe or Yellow River in around 1765 BCE. The river was called the Sorrow of China because it changed its course after floods every year and caused great destruction to the life and property of the Chinese people. At the same time, it enhanced the fertility of the land by the deposition of silt and helped the Chinese farmers to produce surplus crops. This civilization developed into the Iron Age till 1911-1912 CE. The Chinese civilization saw the rule of many dynasties. It first flourished under the Shang dynasty, which ruled till around 1027 BCE approximately. It was during the rule of this dynasty that the system of writing was developed. It is still being used in China nowadays. They made great works in bronze. The Shang dynasty was followed by the Zhou dynasty, which ruled from the 12th century BCE to the 3rd century BCE. It was during their rule that the Chinese civilization reached its peak. It was during this period that notable advances were made in music, poetry, and philosophy. It also saw the development of Confucian, Taoist, Mohist, and legalist schools of thought. These schools put forth their ideologies and thoughts which have influenced the Chinese culture for centuries. Confucianism became the state religion of China. Snippet: Confucius, 551 to 479 BCE, was a Chinese philosopher, political thinker, and teacher who existed during the golden age of the Zhou dynasty. His ideas has a great influence on the civilization of China and other countries. He put forth a code of ethics that has dominated the thought and culture of the people of China and other countries. The Chinese civilization under the rule of Zhou dynasty was initially very peaceful and prosperous. They expanded their territory eastward and established a vast empire. A centralized government could not maintain the large territory that had been conquered. So, the king sent out his trusted generals, family members, and other nobles to establish smaller states which would be loyal to the king. Each noble formed his own separate state with its own legal system, tax code, currency, and military power. They paid taxes to the Zhou king and provided him with soldiers in time of need. Thus, many independent states were formed. The decentralized political power in China made the king's position very weak. The independent states fought each other for supremacy. This chaotic period was known as the Warring States period. This period ended with the victory of the state of Qin under the rule of their first king, Qin Shi Huangdi, who established the Qin dynasty. He declared himself as the first emperor of the consolidated empire in 221 BCE. The Qin dynasty ruled over the Chinese civilization from 221 BCE to 206 BCE. It was followed by many dynasties, namely Han dynasty, Sui dynasty, Tang dynasty, Lianu dynasty, Song dynasty, Yuan dynasty, and Ming dynasty. Historical sources. Literary sources. These include records maintained on silk scrolls, strips of bamboo, and other materials. Important literary sources are texts from Confucian, Taoist, and legalist schools. Archaeological sources. These include structures like palaces, temples, and workshops built by the Chinese in ancient times. Artifacts such as bronze tools, weapons and vessels, bamboo and silk goods, pottery, etc. excavated from different sites also give important information. Geographical advantages of ancient China. China is a vast country bordered by the Pacific Ocean in the east, Himalayas in the south, mountains and deserts in the west, and the Great Wall in the north. These geographical boundaries protected China from the rest of the world and helped the Chinese civilization to flourish. Society. The Chinese society was divided into different classes, with the emperor and the royal family members holding the highest position in the society. Just below them were the nobles who assisted the emperor and gave military support whenever required. This class was very much respected because they served the emperor and could read and write. The soldiers also held a special position in the society. The nobles were followed by the merchants, artisans, and farmers. The slaves were at the lowest level of the society. The Chinese family was a joint family where three generations, grandparents, parents, and children lived in the same house. The elder members of the family were respected by every other family member. The father of the house ruled the family. Women generally took care of the home. The Chinese had great respect for their ancestors and would often pray to their ancestors and offers sacrifices to them. Only the children of the wealthy families attended school where they learned to write using calligraphy and also studied the teachings of Confucius and poetry. Town planning. Town planning in ancient China began with the urbanization of the Huanghe Valley. The Chinese followed strict traditional rules of layout and design based on feng shui, religious and astronomical scientific principles. The city was planned in the form of a square which was further subdivided into 9 squares. The city had broad, parallel roads running north to south that were intersected at right angles by roads running east to west, thus dividing the city into wards or blocks. Each ward or block was square-shaped and was reserved for a specific group of buildings. The palace and government buildings were built in the center of the city. Other structures like temples, marketplace, audience hall were built around it. The cities were surrounded by defensive walls with gates. Some large cities were also surrounded by moats. Occupation. Agriculture, sericulture, domestication of animals, pottery, carpentry were some of the main occupations of the people of ancient Chinese civilization. The economy of the ancient Chinese civilization was based on agriculture. It was the chief occupation of the people of China. They used oxen and buffaloes to plow their fields. The main crops grown by them were rice, wheat, maize, barley, and soybean. Chinese were the first to cultivate tea in around 2700 BCE. Initially, it was used as a medicinal beverage, but around the 3rd century CE, it became a daily drink. They had developed system of irrigation with dikes and canals that helped them in agriculture. Snippet. According to Chinese legend, tea was discovered accidentally by Emperor Shen Nong in 2732 BCE when leaves from a wild tree blew into a pot of boiling water in his garden. He enjoyed the flavor and started researching on it. The Chinese wove linen and specialized in making silk from the cocoons of silkworms. They were the first in the world to raise silkworms. They kept the silk weaving technology as a secret for a very long time, and it was their chief item of export. The Chinese were skilled potters who developed the art of making exquisite porcelain crockery and pots decorated with colorful designs. The Chinese mastered woodwork skills. They used wood on a large scale for the construction of buildings. They excelled in handicrafts such as leather processing, lacquer, jade carving, etc. They also acquired metallurgical skills and made bronze objects. During the Iron Age, they developed iron tools as well. Trade. Both internal and external trade formed an important part of the economy of ancient Chinese civilization. They had trade relations with Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, Iran, and Japan. Their main items of export were silk, tea, paper, porcelain ware, iron, jade, etc. They exported silk through the Silk Route to Central Asia, the Roman Empire, and the Mediterranean region. They were connected to Middle East, Europe, and Africa through the sea routes on which merchant ships sailed across the Indian Ocean. The Chinese used different modes of transportation to carry out trading activities. The chief means of transportation were camel, horse-drawn carriages, boats, etc. Barter system was prevalent in the initial period but was abolished in 221 BCE when an official currency in the form of round coins with square perforation was introduced. Later, in 113 BCE, copper coins came into use. Banking and money lending became popular by the 5th century BCE. Religion. The people of the ancient Chinese civilization during the Bronze Age worshipped several gods representing the forces of nature. The historians are of the opinion that they had more than 200 gods. The most important among them was Shang-Ti, who was the supreme god of law, order, justice, and creation. The Chinese believed that the spirit of the dead had great powers, so ancestor worship was also prevalent in ancient China. Sacrifices to gods and ancestors was an important part of the religious rituals in those times. The people had great respect for oracles or holy priests whom they consulted to know about their future. The Chinese believed in life after death. They buried their dead after wrapping their body in a matting along with their belongings. When a king died, many of his slaves and prisoners were sacrificed and buried along with him. Later on, the Chinese religion was influenced by Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. People accepted their philosophies as their religion. Confucianism is an ancient Chinese belief system founded by the great Chinese philosopher called Confucius. It focuses on the importance of personal ethics and morality. It teaches moral values like kindness, goodness, honesty, modesty, wisdom, and trustworthiness. During the rule of Han Dynasty, Emperor Wu Di, who reigned from 141 BCE to 87 BCE, made it the official state ideology or state religion. Taoism is a religious and philosophical tradition that originated in prehistoric China and has shaped the Chinese culture for more than 2000 years. It teaches how to exist in harmony with nature. Buddhism was first brought to China from India by the merchants and missionaries through the Silk Route during the later part of the rule of Han Dynasty. Gradually, it became a popular religion among the Chinese people as it had a great influence on them because it addressed directly to the concept of human sufferings. In those times, the population of China was badly disturbed by the chaos caused by the disunity of the warring states who were at the war with each other for gaining supremacy. In such a state of turmoil, the people were attracted towards Buddhism. Script. The Chinese developed a pictographic script. Initially, they depicted words as pictures. Emperor Fu Shi, who ruled over China about 5000 years ago, is called the father of Chinese script. Later on, these pictures were replaced by certain signs. Each sign represented an idea. The script was written with a fine brush on stone, silk, bone, or bamboo strips, and later on paper. It was written from top to bottom. Architecture. The most famous architectural achievement of the ancient Chinese was the Great Wall of China, built during the reign of Qin Emperor Shi Huangdi in the 3rd century BCE and continued till the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644 CE. It is the world's largest defense structure stretching from east to west of China, built to protect the kingdom from the invasions and attacks of the nomadic tribes. Watchtowers were built onto the wall, and there was enough space to ride along the top of the wall by chariot riders. It is regarded as one of the wonders of the world. The Chinese also built pagodas. They were stupa-style temples found all over the kingdom. Developments in science and technology. Starting in the Bronze Age, the Chinese civilization lasted till the modern times. Its history is both long and rich, with noteworthy contributions in science and technology. The ancient Chinese philosophers had made significant advances in science, technology, mathematics, and astronomy. The Chinese accurately calculated the length of the year as 365, 1 by 4 days, by combining the solar and lunar calendars. They were the first to record observation of solar eclipse and comets. The ancient Chinese also invented counting and timekeeping devices to help them in mathematical and astronomical observations. They developed the first water clock and abacus. Chinese were the first in the world to make paper in 105 BCE. They made the magnetic compass sometimes in around 1050 BCE. World's first seismograph was built by the Chinese in around 132 BCE. The above mentioned inventions are a few of the many inventions made by the ancient Chinese that have become a part of our everyday life in modern times. Decline of the Chinese civilization. The decline of the Chinese civilization resulted from increase in population, weak government, a frail economy, and invasions. Apart from these reasons, sudden floods in the Huanghe River could not be controlled by the dams and canals in the empire. These uncontrollable floods destroyed many cities and compelled the people to flee somewhere else in the world. China is also one of the oldest civilizations that still exist in the world. Its long history allowed its people to develop some great innovations, many of which we still use today. The Chinese developed glowing paper lanterns that could be released into the air and travel high up into the atmosphere to be used during celebration and festivals. These lanterns work in the same way as a hot air balloon does. Kites were originally developed for religious festivals, but later on they became popular toys for both kids and adults. These kites evolved later on into large human gliders. The Chinese developed silk and kept the process of silk making a secret, which made them the only providers of silk to the entire world. Since it had become a status symbol, the purchasers paid for the silk in gold. Silk was traded through the Silk Route. It did not carry only silk, but also carried ideas between the great civilization of the ancient world. Silk was responsible for much of the economy and cultural exchange between different countries. The invention of paper by the Chinese was one of the most useful inventions for humans. The invention of paper greatly helped the spread of literature and literacy, making books more convenient to use and cheaper. The mass production of paper products such as books, newspapers, and notebooks allowed literacy and information to spread rapidly across the world, bringing a revolution in the field of education. Other paper products such as paper money and office notepaper allowed societies to build and record complex systems of governance. Glossary. Silt, sand, soil, or mud that collects on the bottom or at the sides of a river. Ethics, system of moral principles that includes ideas about right or wrong. Calligraphy, the art of writing beautifully with a pen or a brush. Sericulture, the production of raw silk by raising silkworms. Jade, a hard, usually green gemstone. Recap. The Chinese civilization flourished on the banks of river Huanghe or Yellow River. The Chinese civilization developed during the Bronze Age in around 1765 BCE and continued into the Iron Age till 1911-1912 CE. The Chinese civilization was ruled by many dynasties, beginning with Shang dynasty and ending with the rule of Ming dynasty. The emperor was at the head of the ancient Chinese society, followed by nobles, soldiers, merchants, artisans, farmers, and finally the slaves. The cities of the Chinese civilization were planned in the form of a square, which was further subdivided into 9 squares. Agriculture was the main occupation of the Chinese. They mastered metallurgy and developed the techniques of making silk, paper, and porcelain crockery and pots. Some other occupations were handicrafts, trade, and commerce. The Chinese worshipped several gods representing forces of nature and believed in ancestor worship. High priests or oracles predicted the future. The Chinese used a pictographic script that was written from top to bottom. The most important architectural achievement of the Chinese civilization was the Great Wall of China. They also built several pagodas. Many inventions made by the ancient Chinese have become a part of our daily life in modern